Welcome back to another episode of the I'm a Car Chick podcast. You already know it is me, Shasta Haddock, and I have such a fun guest for you today. We have been talking prior to the recording, and at one point almost forgot that we weren't recording, and we're like, hold on, we got to stop so that we can record because the conversation was that good. So I want to be the first one to introduce you to Beth Lucchesi, who is the Community Recruiting Specialist for Carter Myers Automotive. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you here. We have been connected for, 2+ years now.
Years? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this is the first chance we're really getting to dive in and talk. And I love everything you're doing. It's so needed in this industry, and you've got to tell people about it. But first, I want you to kind of tell the listeners a little bit about you and how you got started and restarted at Carter Myers.
Awesome. I love sharing this story. It's one of my favorite things. So if you can imagine, it was 1986 and I had just graduated from high school and I was not working, and I got hired by CMA for a 2-week temp job to answer the phones. Back then we owned a little car rental company and they needed some help answering the phones for 2 weeks. And I did such a great job. They saw something in me that I didn't know existed and started having me do other things, helping some customers, doing some filing. And at the end of 2 weeks, instead of hiring the receptionist they were looking for, they hired me. And I worked in that business with CMA for 19 years. And that was, until now, the most fun I've ever had at work. And in 2005, the leadership team decided to sell the rental business. You know, our core focus has always been the dealership business and being able to support our communities and to support our associates. And so financially, they made the decision to sell the rental company. And here's one thing that sets CMA apart. The offer was made to all, I think there were about 80 employees at the rental company at that time, and everyone was offered a position within a dealership.
Nice.
So that we could stay with CMA. And I was a chicken, I admit it. The suggestion was made for me to come and work at Volvo and learn how to sell cars and learn finance, which I now think would have been a tremendous offer. But at the time I was scared to death, and I decided to separate from the company. And I explored the logistics side of truck rental. And I did that for a little while, but kept in touch with many friends that stayed with CMA. You know, I grew up at CMA and the culture and the people. And so I always had ties with the organization. And about 5 years ago or so, our CEO, Liza Borges, made the decision that with the growth of the company, we really needed to put some structure and direction around our hiring process. And she created a position of talent acquisition specialist. And I saw that, I think, on LinkedIn or Facebook, and I can't remember, but I do remember that I messaged her immediately and said, I could do that better than anybody you know, and let me have an opportunity. And that was about 4 years ago. So that brought me right back.
I love that. So you have been with the company ever since, but what is interesting that you told me about ahead of time, not just that you were raised in CMA, but that you're the 7th member of your family to work for CMA.
That is correct. So all those years ago in the 80s, my Uncle Jim was a service manager at Petersburg Ford, which was our very first store. And both of his daughters, my cousin, worked in the rental company and also for the dealership. And that's how I got to the rental company job. There was a new location opening in the west end of Richmond where my family and I lived. And nobody knew anybody in that part of town, and they needed somebody to answer the phone. And my cousin called me as a way to help the organization from her little spot down in Petersburg. And that's how I got connected with the company. And from there, my dad, another uncle was a technician. We've had drivers, and it's just become part of our family tradition too.
I love that so much. I mean, and CMA is so big on family as it is. I mean, obviously it's a family business from Carter handing it down to Liza, and then who knows, who's going to take the gauntlet after that. But I mean, it has been built as a family company. And you mentioned it. I don't remember if you mentioned it while we were recording or before, but you mentioned that, when you worked there the first time, this is family, and you got to go back home when you rejoined the crew.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't remember if I told you, but when I was working at Ryder Logistics, I was interested in making a change. I had been there for about 10 or 15 years, and I really enjoyed my time there. Fantastic company. But it was never CMA. It was never it's a global company, great company, but not the same. And I reached out to Carter, asked if he would still be a reference for me in a job that I was considering. And he said, well, absolutely. I'm always happy to be a reference, but if you're done playing with trucks, maybe it's time to come home.
Yeah. And that's awesome. I mean, that Carter himself recognized that, that was your family and where you were meant to be. And you've done amazing things since joining back. So you're more than just somebody who, scours LinkedIn or Indeed all day long looking for people. You have really taken a whole new approach to talent acquisition. Where was your starting off point? When you came into that role, you didn't have necessarily a ton of experience in hiring per se, but you took on that role within a giant organization. Where would you start off in that?
So when I had the interview with Liza and Rich Tritel and our HR manager at the time, I created a business plan for what I thought the job would look like. Mm-hmm. And so when I started, I was having a conversation with the HR manager and said, okay, where do I start? And he said, Liza's priority is the apprentice technician training program. So that's where it all started. CMA, along with many other dealers, have been hiring and training entry-level techs and apprentice techs for many, many years. And what we really needed was just some structure and some direction so that all of our stores were moving together forward in the same direction and in the same way. So I met with every service manager in the company and learned a little something different from each of them and started putting the pieces together, and then found a great coach in the Department of Labor who helped us with lots and lots of paperwork to have our apprenticeship actually approved by both the Department of Labor and the Department of Education so that we could offer this educational opportunity to students and they could get credits towards graduation and completion certificates. And it makes us even more attractive as an employee partner because they're getting school credit for working with us, and we are getting to shape the future.
That is amazing. What age does that start at that they can start the apprenticeship?
So at CMA, we can hire at 16 as long as they have a valid driver's license and a good driving record. And that is all thanks to our amazing insurance partner, PDP.
That is so cool. And especially that it goes towards their credits.
Yes. So instead of typically an auto tech program is typically 1 to 3 years in high school. So you can start as early as your sophomore year. Typically, by your senior year, you have learned enough and hopefully passed some ASE certification testing. And instead of going to class every day, you can opt out and come to work. That's a version of a co-op, and most of them have some version. And we're very clear with students, with parents, with workforce development coaches, and the CTE directors that school is always going to be the first priority. Their schedule will always be mindful of any fun activities that they do if they're involved in sports and clubs. We still want them to have that high school experience, but when they're with us, they're applying what they've learned in auto tech.
This episode is brought to you by Epic BDC, your number one outsourced BDC solution. Learn more about Epic BDC by checking out the link in the bio.
And they're learning to do it in real life, and they have customer responsibilities, and they have training responsibilities, and it's helping shape what their full-time job is going to look like, which is normally offered to them when they graduate.
I want to stop on that for a second because that's so, so, so important. I mean, as someone who going through high school and graduating, I felt so unprepared for the real world and, had no idea of a direction I wanted to go. And now I see the same thing in my kids. Like I think my son has changed about 4 or 5 different times what he wants to do between being an architect, being in the military, being an electrician. I mean, so many different things, but it's not like anything he's doing in school is preparing him for any of this. It's, just getting your basics out of the way, but preparing them to move out of high school directly into not just a job, but a career, and to be well prepared for that career already. I'm curious, what is the retention rate of the kids who go through the apprenticeship program and, complete it, as opposed to how many you guys hire on? Is it pretty high?
98%. And the
Whoa.
ones we've lost have left us for the military. So I don't consider that a loss.
Yeah, no, that's wow, 98%. That is
Mind
wow.
you,
Is it
it's a 3-year-old program, so it's still very new. But we
still
are very lucky. We have been able to develop these great partnerships with the local schools. And we get close to the teachers and we get close to the counselors and the workforce development team. And so they get to know CMA very, very well. And they have a really good idea of the student that we're looking for. We have so
right?
much to offer, right? We have growth and stability and learning and uh, just almost unlimited opportunity. Really, it's really only limited by what they're willing to put into themselves. And
Mhm.
we spend time sharing with parents. We have a parents' night. We have
Love that.
experience days. And we find many times that if a student is interested in a trade, and I'm not speaking just about automotive, it could be electrical, it could be HVAC, it could be plumbing. But parents are so conditioned over the last 20 years or so that my kid needs to go to college.
Right.
You need to get a better job to go to college. And we're working. The stigma is starting to shift a little bit. But when we can bring parents to the table and show them this is not a job, I am not talking about a job. I'm talking about a career path. Let me
Right.
show you. This is where they're starting today while they're in high school. They can work here for 2 years part time. And when they graduate from high school, here's where they go. And we show them step by step all the way to master tech or to a sales manager or to leadership. And while we're there talking about the career path, we talk about our benefits and we talk about employee ownership and we
Mm,
talk about what it means to be part of CMA and that they're not a number, they're an owner.
yeah.
And we start to get the buy-in from the parent. So now the potential student or the student that is a potential candidate now has the support not only of their instructor, but now the parents are starting to go, that could be good. And you can still go to college? Absolutely, you can go to college. We have tuition reimbursement. We encourage education. But every student needs to be able to figure out what learning path fits them, and then we'll help them follow it.
Well, worst case scenario, they go through the apprenticeship program and then decide at the end of it, I don't think this is the career for me, but think of all the tools you just armed them with. Like now they know how to work on their own car. Whereas, I mean, if I think about my graduating class, God, I mean, maybe 1% of them could do their own oil change
I
at the
still
time.
can't do that.
No, I mean, I could probably watch a YouTube video and figure it out, but do I want to? No, not even the slightest bit. I'll
Me
pick people
neither.
who are good at it. I'll pick people who are good at it. But I'm thinking about like, I mean, just all the things that you've armed them with in that amount of time. Because 3 years, that's not just a basic lube and oil change. Like that's you can get pretty deep in those 3 years and teach them quite a bit. Where they may not. I mean, as contradictory as it's going to sound, they're not going to need to rely on a mechanic in the future or anything like that, where they won't be in situations stranded on the side of the road with no way to help themselves, especially
Exactly.
especially if it's a woman.
Correct. And we have quite a few women students that are applying for some available spots right now. And we have a number of women that we have recruited over the years. Not as many as I like, but we're pushing the needle. And one of the fun things, Shasta, about how we round out our school opportunities, we bring the students in and we don't just show them the shop, right? It is a fanfare day. They are welcomed by every available associate that's not helping a
Oh,
customer right then. And they get the grand tour, right? We start in sales and finance with the GM or a sales manager or a senior sales associate talking about the sales process and the finance process just a little bit. And if that store has a BDC, they go to the BDC, right? And they go to the parts department. And all along the way, we're explaining the connection because
mm-hmm,
in automotive, we truly have to operate as one team for that dealership to be as successful as it can be. So
right.
then we go from parts to service and they meet the advisors and the service BDC, if that exists, right? And then we land in the shop and then they get paired off either by team or one-on-one, depending on the number of students that we have. And they spend a few hours shadowing a tech, a master tech, and they're encouraged to ask questions, right? Ask them if they would do it again. Ask them what they like, right? Ask them how long it took them to feel confident in their job or to feel successful in their job. And then we
Mhm.
bring everybody back together at the end and we talk about coming into the apprenticeship program to learn, to see if it fits. And if it doesn't fit, but you love cars, maybe that's a great opportunity to explore an advisor job,
Yeah.
PC job, or a parts job, right? Because that foundation of taking auto tech in high school and working the apprenticeship program, it lays the groundwork for success in any job in the car business. I even
Mhm.
had one apprentice that actually landed in the sales department.
There you go.
And he's doing great. He's selling 20 cars a month.
Wow.
So
So starting early, I mean, this industry, I mean, gosh, I remember podcasts from over a year ago that I did where, the big topic of conversation was how do we get more techs? And, we're all in this position where everybody needs techs and there's not enough to go around because programs like this weren't around 5-10 years ago in scale anyways.
no, not in scale. They were being phased out in a lot of places in place of aviation, and now we're starting to see them come back. And the schools are learning that the key is partnering with dealerships and businesses in the local community and putting everybody together. And that's the secret sauce. These
Yeah,
partnerships are invaluable.
definitely. And I think about with these programs, I imagine it's got to help bring in more employees, not through the program itself, but through the friends and families of people in the program. But it's got to help bring in more employees for the rest of the organization too. Have you seen an increase in like referral based employment?
Well, at CMA, and I'm not sure if this is specific just to us because of our culture and the longevity of our average employees, but our best employees have always come from referrals. So I don't know that I can differentiate between the
Right.
two, but the exposure is certainly different. I was at a career fair today at a middle school. So a middle school with about 1,000 students, sixth, seventh, and eighth graders, and I love interacting with the kids and helping find fun ways to associate their natural behaviors and skills with jobs in the car business. That's kind of what we do for the middle school age group, right? But
Mm-hmm.
throughout the day, I had parents that were attending the event coming by and asking why is this car company here? You can't hire them. Nope. But I can tell you all about all the great things that we have to offer in the car business. And I can tell
Yeah.
you how easy it is to build a real career here. And I can tell you that we have jobs in accounting and payroll and HR and digital media and marketing and advertising that you probably didn't think about in the car business. But they're
Right.
all great jobs right here in the dealership.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we do get a lot of referrals in that way, some for customers, some.
Did you know that there's a monthly newsletter where you can keep in touch with everything the I'm a Car Chick podcast is up to? There is. Check out the show notes below, and you can also follow us on all social media and stay in tune with whatever we're up to.
For jobs. And I think just spending that time in the community, talking about what we have to offer and how we can offer it and how long we've been doing it, just helps the community understand our big picture of moving loss forward.
Yeah. So say that, someone sees you guys at an event or a parent sees you at their child's school and they're like, you know what, I want to work there. I want to give it a try. And, they make the decision to come forward and ask for a position with you guys, with that, whether that's an interview or applying. What does that process look like from beginning to end?
So the first thing we would do is schedule a conversation and get to know the person a little bit, very similarly to how we approach selling a car or servicing a car. We want to get to know the individual and what some of their natural strengths and tendencies are. And then we think about what job within our dealerships in that market would be really good and challenging for this individual. And sometimes there's not a fit, right? But most of the time, if they are open, there's a fit. And then the next step would be to have them apply and introduce them to a hiring manager and maybe take a tour and go from there. And that's as easy it is.
I like that. You guys are also working internally on a program you guys call Engage Women in Automotive in tandem with Danelle Delgado
Yes.
that Liza tried to put together for years, and then Danelle finally kicked her and made her do it. But what I love about it is what it's doing for ladies in the automotive business. And you have the pleasure of being in the very first class
Yes.
that exists of it. Tell us about what that is and how you feel it's helping retain women in the automotive industry.
So it's amazing, and Liza has been wanting to create something like you mentioned for several years, but she's so thoughtful about how she approaches doing anything new, right? She didn't want it to be excluding men. We have so many great men. I've had a number of men that have been fantastic mentors for me that still are, right?
Same.
But at the same time, women react differently and we have different experiences in the automotive industry. So the idea was to create a space where we could learn and grow and challenge each other and share best practices, but really find a deep understanding of what's holding us back from where we need to be. What are we doing to ourselves that is causing us to be held back? So recognizing it, then creating a new behavior in its place and growing forward. And I've had this amazing opportunity to connect with women I would have never met, women in Arizona and California and New England, and from all different walks of the dealership, right? From sales and service and BDCs. And it's really given a great perspective, I think, to all of us. There are so many shared experiences that sometimes it's just nice to know, gosh, I'm not the only woman in automotive dealing with this situation.
Right.
And then also getting some advice on successful things that have helped someone else work through and get to a better place, and even some pitfalls to avoid. Having this framework, it's a 1-year training course with 13 rules of engagement that approach every aspect of life. Right now, our current module is on health and wellness. And Danelle says right at the beginning, I'm going to make some of you uncomfortable because you're doing things you shouldn't do. I raised my hand immediately. I know I'm exercising, but my nutrition is poor. So that's what I'm working on right now. I had to purge things from my house. I thought I had purged. I didn't go deep enough, right? It's about really looking in the mirror and owning up to what I have been doing or not doing and making those changes to help me get where I want to be. And it's amazing to be on this journey with about 48, 49 other women.
That's amazing. So, and just based on what you were saying right there, it's had a really good personal impact on you. Other than the health stuff, how else do you feel that you've been, changed by this program?
So I appreciate that question so much. Not every dealership has a role like mine. And sometimes I would feel a little bit like trainings were geared towards sales or towards fixed ops. I don't have a team. I don't have direct reports. I do have customers and candidates and relationships that I develop, but sometimes I felt a little bit left of center, if you will. And what I have come to understand is that my role is so similar to many of the other women in automotive. And the challenges that I face are the same challenges that they face, right? It might be a different label or a different moniker, and maybe I'm dealing with a school instead of an OEM, right? But we're still building relationships and we are creating new futures. And we still have a responsibility to ourselves and to our company and to our communities to do the best job that we can do. So this training has introduced me and made me really feel more a part of the CMA team than I ever have. And I don't mean that to sound like I didn't feel like part of the team, because I grew up here and I absolutely am at home. But it makes me feel connected in a different way.
Well, and when you're the pioneer of a position or a role, it can be lonely. Like when you have questions about, okay, well, how should I try this thing or how should I approach this? And you quickly realize like there's not a lot of people that I can reach out to for advice because nobody's really done this before. That's lonely.
It can be, but the solution, Shasta, is that I am surrounded by amazing managers and leadership on the variable side, on the fixed ops side. And in building this talent acquisition team and process, it has created amazing relationships with our hiring managers. And now more than 100 people are merely a text or a call away to get an idea or to get some feedback and to shape something. So it's been really phenomenal.
I love that. That is amazing. You're doing some really exciting things there. So today was today the career day or was that yesterday?
I've done 3 this week.
Holy crap. Is
It's
this like
career fair season in the public
okay.
in Virginia.
Okay, I was gonna say, is this like an all the time thing? Because like I'd probably get sick of kids at some point.
It's seasonal, so we have a big push in the spring right before spring break because it helps to bring in visitors. Kids are starting to get antsy before spring break, so it's
Mm-hmm.
really great time for other activities. And then another in the fall,
Mm-hmm.
and that's typically for the older kids who are maybe graduating and working on their plans, but the middle schools get involved too. And one of the really fun things about CMA, and really this was Liza's brainchild, was we don't just need to be in the high schools, right? We need to be everywhere. We need to
Yeah.
be in the elementary schools and we need to be in the middle schools. So by the time the students see us in high school and are thinking about automotive, they've been hearing about CMA their whole school journey. So we're not new.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said earlier, so many of us accidentally stumbled into the car business, and it would be cool to finally find some people who intentionally get into the car business, like that they that they maybe know what they're getting into. And I don't know. I think of the 2 years that I've been doing this, I don't know that I remember a single person who's ever told me they intentionally got in, unless they were a
A
legacy, like
legacy.
yeah, unless
Yeah.
like with Liza and this episode is brought to you by SCP Agency, your one-stop shop for organic social media. Check them out by clicking the link in the show notes or visit scpagency.com. That setup, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head who intentionally got in the car business. So, we accidentally end up here, and I think that it will be really awesome to start seeing. I know it's going to take years to come to fruition, and that probably would frustrate my need for instant gratification. But the years that it'll take to come to fruition, but we're going to start seeing those people grow up and join that apprenticeship program their sophomore year and be a part of the team earlier on, and then I mean from there, the more people you get involved, the more of their friends and family are involved too. Like it's going to be a nonstop tsunami for sure, but a good one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. On Monday, I was at one of our dealerships in Richmond and I was talking to some advisors and getting my oil change. And one of our technicians came in and he didn't come through the apprenticeship program, but he came through another channel that we're developing. And just great young man, just absolutely great young man. He was living in North Carolina and he felt like he was kind of stuck in like a Jiffy Lube kind of job, and he saw one of our ads and he reached out, and he had some family in Virginia, so he had a little bit of a support system. And when I saw him, he was bringing some keys into an advisor, and he said, "Miss Beth, can I just give you a hug?" And I was like, of course, it's great to see you. And he said, "This is the best thing ever. Thank you."
Oh my god, that's so sweet.
There's your instant gratification.
Yeah, I love that. That is so freaking cool.
I mean, that kid
Oh
had
my,
me tears.
oh, I bet. Like, oh my god, I don't know that I would ever let him go from that hug.
Well, he had to. He had another customer he had to take care of, and I had an interview. But
They could
just
wait.
and walking into a career fair today, no, not today, yesterday. Where was I yesterday? I forget. But, and an advisor, occupational hazard. So
Yeah.
yesterday we had an advisory board meeting. So most of the school systems have these advisory boards where they invite educators and business partners to help shape their program to make sure that what they're teaching is relevant, to see what employers want them to be teaching beyond curriculum in the classroom. And
Mm-hmm.
I walked into this advisory board meeting. It was the first time will be a new school relationship for CMA. So I'm always excited about a new school. And I walk in and there are 3 people that I know from different events and different paths and auto tech contests with high schools and Skills USA. And it was just really great to walk in and go, okay, this program is going to succeed because look who's here. Look who's
Yeah.
here. We've got this amazing support system, and we're going to help this school get ASC certified, and we're going to get them back on the map.
That's so important too. I mean, those relationships mean everything.
That there are 5 high schools that feed into that school. So for the last 3 years, they have not had an accredited auto tech program. They're still teaching it, but they couldn't take ASEs. They couldn't prepare for a state inspection license. And now we're going to help them regain that momentum and get back to that. And that's going to feed an entire community of car dealers. And
That's huge. I love that so much. So I have an interesting question, and I don't know that you'll have an answer, but it's made my gears turn all the while.
okay.
I'm sure you saw it, and I think you may have actually even commented on it. I'd made a post on Facebook probably a month or so ago asking if you get your oil changed at a dealership other than where you bought your vehicle and where. And majority of the answers were that they do not service their vehicle where they got it bought or where they purchased it from. Do you think having better processes in place for hiring and retention will help us with customer retention on the service side?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So when I am talking to a candidate, and it can be a sales candidate or a service candidate, but for the purpose of your question, I talk about how we approach the service process at the interview, about getting to know our customer and how that customer uses that vehicle. So the advisor then has the opportunity to share with the technician that's doing the video multi-point inspection. The technician now knows if this is a mom carrying kiddos around to school and to dance and to sports practice, or if this is a young man who just bought this truck because he loves how it sounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it needs to perform, it needs to be loud and go fast. Or maybe it's someone like me who is in the car every day, traveling and traveling. And so I am very concerned with dependability and reliability and fuel economy. So now
Mm-hmm.
the advisor has created a bond with their customer. They've shared valuable information with our technician. The technician can now think about how that car is being used every day and make recommendations based on that personal knowledge that the advisor gained. So now that service is specific to me and how I use my car.
Yep.
And that tells me that CMA really cares about what's going on in my life. They're not just here for my $100 oil change. They're looking out for how I use that car every day. And so that creates trust and builds that relationship. So yes, absolutely. I think it makes a difference.
Well, and if anybody will notice, it didn't happen by accident. It's intentional.
Correct.
We're not going to fix the service customer retention problem accidentally. It's not going to happen. It's not going to be something that just kind of fixes itself without us having to do anything. Like, being intentional is going to be the way to change it. And it's not just focusing on the customer. I mean, if one advisor goes through all of the effort of putting the work in to learn their customers and we don't work to retain the service advisor, then why would your customers stick around? Yeah.
And that's why coming back to recruiting and talent acquisition is so very important, to slow down the process and find someone. It needs to be an equally good fit from the candidate to the dealership, and from the dealership to the candidate. What can we help you grow into?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Not can you do the job now?
Right.
And yes, that is important, and that's part of the conversation, but it's only part of the conversation. We want to be part of your future. We want to invest in you and help you grow.
And it's so important, especially as they move forward in their automotive career, knowing that they're already at a place who is going to bring in people like Danelle Delgado, bring in people like Glenn Lundy, and continue to train and focus on their own empowerment, in not just for the sake of the dealership, but because, whether you end up here or you end up halfway across the globe, we want you to be armed with all of the tools that you need to succeed.
Absolutely. The key to customer success starts with employee success. And that starts before the interview, right? It's not your first day. It's not the first phone call. The first step is caring.
You can't train that.
No, either you do or you don't.
Yeah.
And I am very
And that,
lucky to be somewhere that does.
yeah. And that goes all the way back to finding the right person when you need someone who cares about your customers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, when we create, it's not rocket science, right? When
Right.
we find the right person, I've heard you say it 100 times, right person in the right seat with the right tools, that's the win. Liza
Yeah.
calls it everybody wins. You know, that it's part of our core values. You know, people first. Behind every challenge or opportunity is a person with feelings, right? And we
Hmm.
have to remember there's a person. It's not just a job. It's not just a challenge. There's a person there. And
Hmm.
when there's a challenge, we have to create a situation where everyone wins, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes maybe that takes a little bit longer. Maybe it takes creating something new. Maybe it's something we haven't done before. But wow, the outcome when everybody walks away satisfied and happy, it doesn't get any better than that. And that is what keeps us always forward, never straight. Creates tunnel vision, but
Yep.
always moving forward and learning.
And that's why that's the perfect slogan for you guys. I love it.
I believe Danelle created that out of session with Liza. Don't quote me on that. You'll have to ask Liza next time you see her, but I'm pretty sure.
Those two together are almost dangerous. They're so good.
Absolutely unstoppable.
Like, don't get in their way. Don't get in their
No,
way.
absolutely not.
Oh my God.
On
So,
top of you running a marathon.
right? Oh my God. Making Danelle run that marathon and then Liza broke her foot. Poor girl. I don't know which one I'm talking about. Poor Liza or poor Danelle.
They both came through it beautifully.
Yes, they did. Yes. So, if you could arm our listeners with any piece of information, advice, they're struggling with hiring, struggling with retention, where would you tell them to start or what advice would you give them? You've made it this far, and I have to say thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to rate the show, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, and of course on all social media channels. Light it up.
I would look at your current employees and gauge their happiness and make sure that you have the right people in the right seats. And once you do, then you can move forward and build something greater.
That's smart. How would you, I mean, just out of curiosity, what do you do to gauge employee happiness?
So we try not to overburden our associates. We get so much email and stuff coming at us, but we do an engagement survey once every couple of years. But when we have a new associate, we've started using the Clifton Strengths. We're a strengths-based company, and our current director of people and associate engagement, who I report up to, his name is Chris Hines. He's amazing. He's been with us a little over a year,
I
and
like his
he
title.
isn't that great? You know, in any other company, you have an HR manager or HR director, but he is so focused on associate engagement and experience, right? That he has made such a difference with us. He is strengths certified. And
Nice.
so when he joined us, all of our current associates took a strengths assessment, or we were encouraged to all take a strengths assessment. And it tells you at a core level, like the 5 or 10 things that innately shape you as a person. And then it shares with you behaviors and skills that fit. And so we looked at, just as an example, we looked at the strengths assessments of our associates as compared to their job responsibilities.
That's smart.
Right? And so if you're working in areas that are not in your strengths, maybe they're in your challenge areas, then they're going to be depleting your energy versus giving you energy.
Yeah.
And giving you joy. So we made some adjustments. And I mean, that was a starting point. There are a million different behavior analysis and different things, but really the most powerful tool that any manager has is just talking. One of the things that I love about Chris, he makes a point of talking to each of us on his team. We're the people team, right? For HR and payroll and recruiting, we're the people team. And he makes time every other week at least to have just a few minutes. And sometimes it has to be a Zoom because some of us travel, and sometimes it's just a phone call. But it's a check-in, and it's not just what's on our task list, but it's how's Beth? How's the dog that just had surgery? How's my dad who was in the hospital recently? What's going on? What's new and exciting? Have you made your vacation plans? Remember to take vacation.
That one's so important.
Right? And we forget because we're busy.
Yeah.
But he does a check-in every couple of weeks. And it just, to me, as an employee, I know that he cares about my personal well-being.
Yeah.
And I just love that. It just makes me a happy employee.
I mean, that's what we need. I mean, with how many jobs are out there, we've all got to make sure that us and our teams are happy. And remember, you got to take care of you first before you can take care of someone else.
Absolutely. The airlines have been telling us for years. We just finally started listening.
Yeah. Like, oh, they were onto something. This is why. So I want to end this with an interesting little twist. What is a very, and I did not prepare her for this, guys, so we don't know.
I'm worried now.
What is a like fun or interesting fact about you that not a lot of people know?
Gosh, I already told you about my 7 family members working for CMA. Okay, here's a fun one. I started following the Boston Red Sox about 10 years ago because I was in a job that I loved, but I had a new manager and he and I were like oil and water, but he was a huge Red Sox fan. So I started following the Red Sox and let him hear me talking about statistics, players, and the Red Sox chances, so that we finally became friends after a year of working for him. And then he finally recommended me for a promotion and I got away from him, and I will forever be grateful to the Boston Red Sox.
Do you still follow baseball?
Absolutely.
Still a Red Sox fan?
Still a Red Sox fan. Nobody else.
Good.
And every one of my friends are a Yankee fan, so it makes for a very interesting baseball season.
That is hilarious. I love that. I was trying to think, I'm like, man, how did I get into sports? But mine was just the old fashioned way of I didn't watch them until I went to a game, and then there was no coming back from that.
Right. I still don't like it as much on TV as I do in person. So, I'll go, we have several college teams near where I live. We have UVA and VCU, and they're pretty good at baseball. So I can see that. And the Orioles are close. So I haven't been to Fenway in a while. We need to put it back on the list.
How far of a drive is that for you?
Oh, I fly. I'm not driving.
Oh, yeah. That's fair.
Yeah. So I'm in Virginia. So.
See, those Northeast states, I just assume they're all like this close to each other.
They are not. Plus, driving in Boston terrifies me. I have done it, but I will not do it again if I don't have to.
My husband
take cabs and metros, and I'd rather do the T-line than face driving in Boston at rush hour.
My husband and I have talked about taking a trip to DC and New York, and I'm like, I'm not driving there. Like, you can't pay me to drive there. I will not do it. I will walk on the sidewalk for 15 blocks before I drive in New York City.
Absolutely. Now, I will drive to New Jersey and park the car and take the train. I will do that. If I don't have a lot of luggage.
Yeah, Jersey's not bad. I've been to Jersey a couple of times, and it's busy, but it's not that.
Not New York busy.
No, that's angry busy.
Yes. So intense. So much good skill in the South. For sure.
Any message you want to leave for somebody new to the automotive industry or just getting a start, whether young or old, male, female, what message of hope and inspiration would you give to them if they're just starting off their journey?
I would say if you start your journey and you don't absolutely love what you're doing, talk to people in different departments and explore the industry, because if you have the bug, there is a place for you. There is a place for you to grow and flourish, and you just have to spend a little time finding it. So if the first thing you didn't try, or the first thing you tried doesn't bring you joy, keep looking because it's there.
Yeah. It doesn't necessarily mean the automotive industry. Like, don't leave us.
Right.
Leave us.
Try a different department, try a different team, right? It could be any number of things, but go online and explore different jobs, then think about what really brings you joy as an individual, and then look at the job requirements that play to those strengths, because that's the sweet spot.
Can I get professionally paid to do what I like to do all day long?
Yes, I do every day.
Right. Like I'm a spreadsheet queen, and like BDC, I live in spreadsheets. I'm crunching numbers all day long. Like, leave me alone. I'm in my spreadsheets.
Now, see, that would give me a large pain in my head. but I get to talk to hundreds of new people. Well, this week, thousands of new people every single day, and talk about the joys that we have in the car business. And, even with the challenges and different things that come at us, we keep moving forward, right? The pandemic came, we pivoted, we learned how to sell cars online, right?
Mhm.
Supply chain came, right? We had no chips, we had no new inventory. So we learned
Oh
how to sell
my God.
pre-owned. We learned how to be profitable at pre-owned. We learn things. And each time we come out of a challenge, we've learned something new that we can carry on into the future and offer yet another option for our customers to make it
Mhm.
easy to do business with us. And, so many people think that the car business is all about the cars, and it's about us. It's about the people. It's about the people we meet and the people we serve. And if you love people and you like to serve, this is an amazing career.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more. Beth, thank you so much for coming on the show today. This was a phenomenal conversation, and I really hope has inspired some people out there to be more intentional about their recruiting, hiring, and retention of employees. What's the best way to connect with you if anybody has questions that they want to chat with you about?
I would say LinkedIn, Beth Lucchesi. And I want to thank you so much for having me on. I was so nervous about talking to you in this format, and you've made it so easy. And I love the car business, and, we can make it better every day, just one person at a time. So just hang in there and keep moving forward.
You heard her. Keep moving forward. Remember to light it up. Guys, we'll catch you next time on the I'm a Car Chick podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and do not forget to connect with Beth on LinkedIn.